Yeah, that is really cool. I love to see that in games. I feel bad. Well, not that I feel bad for the company. I just I feel bad for the company and the gamer when they fall into their niche and then they just can't get out. They get a paycheck every week and it's supposedly good enough for them. I mean, I guess it's good to have something steady like that, but when you stop evolving, that's really, that's when you end your innovation and kind of sadly when your product becomes obsolete. So it's good to see that you're constantly evolving and you take this evolution quite serious because, you may be a WiiWare title, but you're still putting it out there and you're still going strong with it.
Yeah, and believe you me, we continually innovate, and that's one of the reasons that we do change it up every game. With Bit Trip Beat, when that came out, and a lot of people really liked it, and it got great reviews. I think that a lot of companies would be tempted to sort of expand on that and do more of the same, but just sort of new levels or whatever. And I think that would be super cool. I love Bit Trip Beat, and I would love to play more levels. And just a little hint, I don't think we're done seeing that style of gameplay yet. Mm-hmm. But we didn't want to do like a series of games that was basically Pong meets Res or whatever, the people are saying out there about it. Because it would get boring after a while. So that's why we're trying to change it up. And also, dude, when we're done with the Bit Trip series, this studio, I think we're going to change it up pretty drastically. Our next game is going to be very unique and very different from the Bit Trip series. But we're not talking about that now. We're talking about
no. We're talking about Bit Trip, a little teaser for the future there. So
yeah, exactly.
With the checkpoints, I keep hearing wonderful things about it, like, I can blink my eyes, or, I was so close to dying. I was in the black and white, the arcade phase, and, then I'm hearing on other sides, because there's always two sides of the coin there, and some people like it and some people don't, and some people are saying, oh, now it's too easy, and, maybe it gives it a little bit of an easier-esque atmosphere to it. But, I mean, there's still a great challenge. And I was wondering, for future Bit Trip, would you think about perhaps, well, of course, keeping the checkpoints in there, or maybe not. I mean, I don't know what you're going for with the fourth.
Sure.
But also, after you beat the game with the checkpoints, you might have an option to take off the checkpoints at the end. So people who want an extra challenge can go back and it would add replay value.
That's a really cool idea. I think doing something like that would be really neat, especially for the hardcore fans and for gamers like myself. For instance, in Bit Trip Beat and Core, you have to play through the level in one sitting. And the levels aren't super long. They're like 12 minutes long, but you have to do it in one sitting. And I personally like that because you get in this flow state and you just really can rock a vibe, which is one of the things that we tried to do with the checkpoints in keeping the music active. We didn't kick you out of the level. The level is sitting there idling, waiting for you. So we wanted to keep players involved. And in the future games, or at least game number 4, we are sort of evolving the checkpoint even further. So like this whole notion of evolution is sort of runs rampant through the whole series, through gameplay, through visuals, mechanics, and everything. So I think that you're going to be pleased with the way that we are taking the structure of the metagame in the future as well.
That's very cool. Now I was wondering, was this game, would you say, maybe harder to program than Beat or Core, where in those two games you had a set path of motion? With Beat, you just tilted up and down on the Wii Remote sideways, and you can only go up and down. There's no side to side. And then on Core, you were locked into this kind of coordinate plane for grid style, and you have the directional pads plus the 2 button. So the player can't go crazy all over the screen. Was this game any harder to program?
I don't know. It really wasn't harder to engineer in terms of player movement or anything. Our engineer Chris got the basic gameplay in terms of controlling your character down pretty quickly. At Gaijin Games, we prototype everything that we do before we dive in just to find out if the games are even worth making, you know. And so when we prototyped this, we tried a few different things. Like we even tried pointer, you know, because we really like the Wii Remote and all the things that it can do. But the pointer just made it sort of too easy, kind of pointless, because anywhere that you point, your void is in an instant, you know, and so you lost that sensation of, oh, I've got to move and I've got to flow with the dots and all of that. You know, and so once we scrapped that kind of thing, I think that the controls and everything fell into place very easily. One of the things, though, that we had to do is quantize all the sound effects, because we're not doing, the player is not driving the beat in Bit Trip Void. And that's a change from the other games, and I think it's a good change. It sort of evolves as games evolved, where the music sort of integrates better and all of that. And so we had to engineer the sound effects so that they would always happen to the beat of the music, and everything that you do occurs to the beat, even if you didn't push the button on the beat. And I think that was probably more challenging than the controls and changing up the controls for Void.
Yeah, I had a feeling that would be probably the most challenging aspect, because the Bit Trip series overall is, well, it's a rhythm game. It's heavily based on what you're hearing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's visually stunning, yes, but without the auditory goodness, it's just not Bit Trip. And, you know, it's when you release the beats that you collect, you know, no matter where or how full your void is, it always goes to the rhythm of the music, you know, and it's a drum sound effect.
Yeah.
And it's really cool because, you know, if you continually do good and go with the flow, because even though you have your own path of movement, you know, you can go all over the screen, you got to be careful, because there's only a certain amount you can do that, because otherwise you'll go into the black and white arcade mode and then eventually die.
Yeah.
So, you know, that whole movement aspect, you know, it not only gives you more than one way to flow with the beat, but it really lets you experiment. And I thought it was cool that you keep the rhythm going, even though it gives the player more freedom to experiment with these different rhythm flows.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I like about Bit Trip Void, is that you sort of hear something new each time you play. I mean, it's not like it's drastically new, but you change it up a little bit, you know, and you hear different things than you would otherwise hear, you know, if you play it one way versus another. And I think that's really neat. And if you notice, when you're in that black and white mode that you're talking about, that's called the Nether Sphere, or just Nether. When you're in Nether, you know, we remove all the sounds, or mostly all the sounds, right? And then as you layer up, as you mode up into Hyper, and then Mega, then Super, then Ultra, when you pop and the beats that you've collected are exploding out of you, each backing track that plays is different based on what mode you're in. So when you're in Ultra mode and your void is throbbing, and you've got the word Ultra going across the screen, you know, and it's super huge, you're hearing much more, like a much richer sound. And I don't know if players have picked up on this, and so I'm gonna talk about this right now, because I think it's really cool, and I don't know if we can pull this off. So you guys will have to watch us to see if we can do it. But in each game we've made, Bit Trip Beat started with 3 modes: Nether mode, Hyper, and then Mega. And then Core, we added Super on top of that, which added another layer of music. And then in Void, we added Ultra, which added yet one more. And so we're going to try to add one more per game. And 6 games in the series, one, it's going to be hard to name them all. 2, what are we going to do, you know, to make each one cooler and bigger and better? So that's one of the things that we're trying to do. And I think we did a really good job in Void, but that was a big challenge, actually.